Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're part of our journey. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready for a story that will leave you thinking. And if you love inspiring tales, a like goes a long way. No one moved to help her. A girl lying broken on the freezing concrete. Blood trickled from her lip, her torn clothes barely protecting her from the biting cold. The distant laughter echoed through the abandoned bus stop like a knife cutting through the night's silence. Two men rushed past, eyes downcast, deliberately blind to her shallow breathing. Three women huddled together across the street whispering, phones clutched in their hands. Recording, not calling for help. 20 feet away, a group of young men stood smoking, occasional glances and smirks revealing everything about the night's events. The black Porsche slowed at the red light. Behind the wheel, a man in a dark jacket squinted through the rain-speckled windshield. Keanu Reeves' hands tightened on the steering wheel as his eyes registered the scene. The light remained red, but his decision took less than a heartbeat. If this moment made you feel something, imagine what's coming next. Hit that like button and stay with us. Subscribe now. The city's outskirts had been forgotten long ago, left to decay in shadows cast by distant skyscrapers. Tonight, as the temperature dropped below freezing, the abandoned bus stop stood as a cruel reminder of neglect. The harsh fluorescent light flickered overhead, casting unforgiving shadows that exposed the girl's bruised face. She couldn't have been older than 19, someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone's entire world, now discarded like refuse on cold concrete. Her chest barely moved with each shallow breath. The crimson staining her pale skin stood out starkly against the grimy sidewalk. One shoe missing, purse emptied beside her, phone screen shattered like the safety she'd assumed just hours earlier. Nobody knew her name, yet everyone understood exactly what had happened. The group of young men, 5 of them, varsity jackets and expensive watches, maintained their distance while staying close enough to admire their handiwork. They passed a bottle between them, voices carrying through the night air. "She was asking for it," one said, triggering laughter from the others. Their confidence was impenetrable, built on generations of privilege and parents who could make problems disappear. Across the street, bystanders created digital evidence they'd never share. A middle-aged woman whispered, "Someone should call the police," but her finger never dialed. A businessman checked his watch. Too late, too dangerous to get involved. A teenager pulled his hood tighter, eyes darting between the girl and her attackers, calculating the cost of courage and finding himself bankrupt. The collective silence became a palpable sixth person at the scene, watching, weighing, withholding help. The Porsche's engine hummed impatiently at the red light. Inside, Keanu's face was illuminated by the dashboard's soft glow, his features hardened by what he witnessed. He'd played heroes on screen countless times, John Wick, Neo, Johnny Utah, but this wasn't a script with carefully choreographed violence and predetermined outcomes. This was raw reality unfolding in real time, with real consequences. Through the drizzling rain, his eyes met those of the ringleader, a tall boy with a Letterman jacket who raised his chin in defiance, daring interference. The traffic light cast alternating crimson hues through the windshield, painting Keanu's knuckles red as they gripped the steering wheel. In his mind, calculations formed, not of risk to himself or his reputation, but of seconds. How many remained before that shallow breathing might stop altogether? The light would change in moments, offering the socially acceptable path forward. Drive away, call authorities, absolve himself of direct involvement. But some situations demanded more than procedural response. Things are about to take a turn. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe, like our video, and keep watching. The Porsche's door opened before the light changed. Keanu stepped out, raindrops immediately darkening his black coat. His movement created an electric shift in the atmosphere. Phone cameras swiveled, whispers intensified, the young men's laughter stuttered into silence. He didn't slam the door or make a dramatic entrance. The quiet, deliberate way he moved carried more weight than any theatrical gesture. "Is that?" someone whispered, recognition dawning. The tallest attacker recovered first, straightening his jacket. "Nice car, man," he called out, voice wavering between bravado and uncertainty. His friends shuffled, forming a tighter group, their previous confidence cracking at its foundation. They recognized the face, everyone did, but couldn't reconcile the Hollywood image with this real person walking toward them through the rain. Keanu ignored them completely, moving directly to the girl. He knelt beside her, unconcerned about the wet concrete soaking his jeans. His fingers pressed gently against her neck, checking for a pulse. "Call 911, he said, voice low but carrying clearly through the night air. Nobody moved. He looked up, his gaze sweeping across the bystanders. "Now!" The single word contained no theatrics, no raised volume, just undeniable authority. The spell broke. 3 phones emerged simultaneously, their owners suddenly finding the courage that had eluded them moments before. Keanu removed his coat and gently placed it over the girl, sheltering her from both the cold and the invasive stares. Her eyelids fluttered at his touch, the faintest sign of consciousness returning. "She just had too much to drink," called the ringleader, his voice betraying nervousness despite the cavalier words. "We were trying to help her." Keanu didn't turn, didn't acknowledge the transparent lie. Instead, he spoke softly to the girl. "You're going to be okay. Help is coming." The tenderness in his voice stood in stark contrast to the calculated violence evident in her injuries. The group of young men shifted uneasily. "Hey, aren't you that actor?" Another one tried changing tactics. "Could we get a picture?" The hollow attempt at normalization fell into empty space. A woman finally approached, offering a bottle of water. "I'm a nurse," she said quietly, kneeling on the girl's other side. Her hand shook slightly, ashamed of her earlier hesitation but moving forward now. Keanu nodded, making space while maintaining his protective position. Others began to gravitate closer, the invisible barrier of inaction finally broken. The ringleader's face darkened as he watched his control of the narrative slipping away. "Let's go," he muttered to his friends, attempting a casual exit. They backed away, maintaining their performance of innocence while seeking escape. "Stay where you are." Keanu's voice cut through the night. He stood up slowly, turning to face them for the first time. Nothing in his posture suggested aggression, yet the authority in his stance made the young men freeze. In the distance, sirens began to wail. An older man with a salt and pepper beard approached. "I got it all on video," he said, holding up his phone. "From when they first approached her at the convenience store across the street." His voice trembled. "I should have intervened sooner." Keanu nodded acknowledgement without offering absolution. The complexity of moral failing hung in the air. The collective guilt of those who had watched without acting, who had prioritized their safety over her survival. The young men's expressions transformed as they registered the multiple cameras now pointed their way, the approaching sirens, the dissolving shield of public apathy. Their leader, now visibly frightened, made a sudden calculation. "Run!" he hissed. 2 bolted immediately. The others hesitated, frozen in indecision. This story is only getting deeper. What would you do in this situation? Comment below, and let's talk. Keanu moved with unexpected speed, not toward the fleeing attackers, but to position himself between them and the injured girl. His stance wasn't aggressive, but protective, a human barrier ensuring no further harm would come to her. The ringleader, caught between flight and confrontation, made the mistake of lunging forward, attempting to intimidate his way through. The movement happened so quickly that phone cameras barely captured it. A subtle sidestep, a firm hand on the attacker's wrist, a controlled redirection of momentum. The young man found himself suddenly kneeling on the pavement, arm locked behind him, immobilized not by violence but by precise technique. No punches thrown, no dramatic takedown, just efficient protection executed with quiet expertise. "You're Keanu Reeves," the young man gasped, as if his celebrity status should grant immunity. "And you're someone who hurt her," Keanu replied simply. No dramatic monologue, no righteous speech, just the plain truth spoken without embellishment. The girl's eyes opened fully now, consciousness returning in fragments. The nurse supported her head while someone else covered her with another jacket. Her gaze found Keanu, confusion, fear, and then a flicker of recognition crossing her features. Tears began streaming down her face as the full horror of her experience returned. Blue and red lights painted the scene as 2 police cars arrived, followed closely by an ambulance. The authorities found an altered landscape, not the typical scattered witnesses and conflicting accounts, but a community formed in the aftermath of moral failure, now committed to truth. The older man immediately approached officers, phone extended with video evidence. Others stepped forward with testimonies and footage. The young men who'd fled were caught 2 blocks away. The ringleader, still restrained by Keanu, began a desperate bargaining. "Do you know who my father is?" he hissed at the approaching officer. "He's the district attorney's golf partner." The statement hung in the air, its intended power diminished by the audience witnessing it. "And she's someone's daughter," Keanu replied quietly, releasing him to the police. Paramedics worked efficiently, stabilizing the girl before carefully moving her onto a stretcher. She reached out weakly, fingers grasping. "Thank you," she whispered to Keanu, words barely audible. Her eyes conveyed what her voice couldn't, the profound gratitude of someone who'd been abandoned by humanity and then found it again in a single person's choice. One officer recognized Keanu, professionalism momentarily cracking. "Big fan, sir. John Wick ... He caught himself, embarrassed by the inappropriate timing. Keanu offered a small smile that acknowledged both the appreciation and its misplacement. "Those are just movies," he said. "This is what matters." He gestured toward the girl being loaded into the ambulance, toward the community now giving statements, toward the reality that eclipsed fiction. A female officer approached the nurse who'd helped. "You witnessed everything?" she asked, notepad ready. "Not everything," the nurse admitted, voice thick with emotion. "I was across the street. I saw them attack her. I saw her fall." She paused, struggling. "I saw everyone watching, myself included." Tears welled in her eyes. "We all just stood there until he showed up." She looked at Keanu, who had stepped back from the center of attention. Rain continued falling, washing away blood from the concrete, but not the collective realization that had crystallized in every witness. The moment reflected back at them was uncomfortable. A mirror showing not who they aspired to be in their daydreams of heroism, but who they actually were when heroism was required. The ringleader, now handcuffed in the back of a police car, watched through the window as his carefully constructed world of privilege and protection began unraveling. His face registered the dawning understanding that some actions cannot be undone. Some consequences cannot be escaped. Some moments define a life permanently. It's not over yet. The best part is coming. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. As the ambulance pulled away, its siren cutting through the night, Keanu retrieved his coat from a paramedic who had returned it. The garment was stained with blood and dirt, physical remnants of a moment that would linger far longer in memory than in fabric. He turned toward his car, clearly intending to slip away without fanfare. "Mr. Reeves," called the female officer, "we'll need your statement as well." He nodded, understanding the necessity of process. As he gave his account, factual, unembellished, focused on what mattered for the case rather than his involvement, people gathered nearby, watching with new eyes. Not celebrity worship, but something more complicated. Respect mingled with self-reflection. The nurse approached afterward, offering a tissue for the rain on his face. "I always wondered what I'd do in a situation like this," she said quietly. "Now I know, and I'm not proud of it." "We never really know until we're there," Keanu replied, his voice gentle but not absolving. "But we can know better for next time." News traveled faster than the police reports could be filed. By morning, video clips circulated online, carefully edited by witnesses to protect the girl's identity while capturing the essence of what transpired. Not the attack itself, but the aftermath, a moment when a celebrity stepped beyond the comfortable distance of charitable donations or social media statements into direct, personal involvement. The hospital reported the girl, identified only as Emma, was in stable condition, her physical injuries treatable, though the invisible wounds would take longer to heal. Her parents released a simple statement. "To the man who stopped when everyone else walked by, there are no adequate words for what you did for our daughter. You didn't save a stranger, you saved our entire world." When reporters inevitably found Keanu's publicist demanding comments, the response was characteristically understated. "Mr. Reeves believes anyone would have done the same." This humility, contrasted against the reality that many could have but didn't, resonated deeply. The story wasn't about celebrity heroics, but about human capacity, both for indifference and for intervention. 3 days later, as Emma recovered under her family's care, the bus stop where she had lain broken transformed. What began as a small memorial of flowers became something larger, not in tribute to celebrity intervention but as community atonement. Notes appeared. "I was there. I did nothing. I am sorry. I will be better." Candles burned through rainy nights, kept alight by strangers taking turns with umbrellas. The story spread not merely as entertainment, but as a mirror. Conversations started in homes and classrooms, not about Keanu Reeves specifically, but about courage, responsibility, and the gap between who we imagine ourselves to be and who we prove to be when tested. In the quiet of his home, away from cameras and commentary, Keanu placed no significance on his actions. He had not done something extraordinary in his mind, only what was fundamentally human. He had not acted as John Wick or Neo or any character written for him. He had simply refused to be another pair of eyes looking away. The true power of the moment lay not in his intervention, but in the unspoken question it left burning in thousands who watched the videos, who discussed the event, who placed flowers at the bus stop. Next time, will I be the one who stops, who helps, who refuses to look away? Or will I need someone else to show me how to be human again? Wow, what a story! If this moved you, imagine what else we have for you. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let us know what you think.